Hi, my name is Raquel Harris. Welcome to my presentation for EDC1200 Self-Education and Society. The social event I have selected is centred on an article published in the Sydney Morning Herald announcing the recent introduction of the new multiculturalism policy described by the Gillard Labor government. Australia's current Labor Minister for Immigration and Citizenship, Chris Bowen, along with Race Discrimination Commissioner Graham Innes, highlight the dominant issue by stating, "In the face of religious extremism, multiculturalism is not only in Australia's national interest, but a core part of our national identity." This statement presents questions such as what constitutes Australia's identity as being multicultural. According to statistics, Australia is a multicultural nation. In all, since 1945, 7 million people have migrated to Australia. Today, 1 in 4 of Australia's 22 million people were born overseas. We speak over 260 languages and identify with more than 270 ancestries. Secondly, how does multiculturalism affect our national interest and the way in which we participate and accept differences of others in a global world without obliterating our own national identity? Globalisation exists through events such as migration, economic relationships between nations, internet, other forms of communications media, and increased accessibility of travel. Not only in Australia but worldwide, societies are constantly changing as cultures coalesce and different traits and attitudes are shared. What we need to recognise when protecting our national identity from difference is that national identities, along with all other forms of identity, is fluid rather than static, never remaining the same but constantly changing with social experiences and knowledge. Thirdly, who is considered to be the face of religious extremism may be answered with Chris Bowen's reference to Muslims. He states, "In the age of terrorism, it was inevitable questions were asked about Muslim migration to Australia." A clear example of this is the portrayal of new migrant groups by the media, such as the recent focus on Muslim communities, exhibiting them as religious extremists, pro-terrorism and unaccepting of Australian values. They do this by instilling fear into the community, by highlighting their differences and negativities, rather than stating their similarities and embracing their diversity as a means of cultural knowledge and tolerance in a multicultural society. Despite only 1.9% of the Australian population identify themselves as Muslim, what the media often fail to draw attention to is the fact that the majority of Muslims have integrated into the Australian community, exploiting the notion of Australia being overpopularised by this minority group. Bowen also mentions freedom and equality as key elements of Australia's multiculturalism, ensuring everyone has access to the same opportunities in life regardless of their background. So how does this policy statement encourage us as a community to uphold and strengthen these beliefs? We can do this by remaining subjective, gaining knowledge and understanding of different cultures through education, experience involving societal interactions within the broader community, and acknowledging our origins, facing our fears, and most importantly of all, showing empathy to others. Welcome to part 2 of this assignment. The supporting teaching material will be implemented to further explore the notion of difference and dominance using key elements provided in part 1. The resources contained in this section have been developed to support the delivery of multicultural education in the classroom, which will assist students to engage positively with other peoples and cultures and to better understand Australia's cultural diversity and history. To begin, student knowledge will be assessed using a short multiple choice quiz after viewing a presentation on some of the key terms mentioned in relation to the issue of multiculturalism. Examples of these terms include multicultural, migration, national identity, globalisation, discrimination, empathy and diversity. This will identify the need for further elaboration of the concept of these terms. As part of the quiz component, students will be directed to the website Making Multicultural Australia and encouraged to independently complete the online quizzes. The questions will vary, covering the broad area of Australia's multicultural past, present and future. This will provide teachers with an indication of students' prior knowledge. Some of the quiz topics include: how much do you know about the development of Australia's multicultural policies? How much do you know about Australia's population? Australian identities? Who am I? Holidays and festivals? And how much do you know about Australians today? National identities and contributions by migrant communities will be further explored. Students will be asked to reflect on their own opinion of what they perceive Australia's national identity to be and how Australian culture may be viewed by other countries. Students will be divided into groups of 3 to 4 and given a set task of collecting images to create a classroom display on what they feel represents being Australian. Continuing with the same outline and resources, students will focus on contributions by various migrant communities to the Australian way of life. This will lead to a class discussion on comparisons between the two displays, focusing on the notion that Australia has historically always been culturally diverse. The outcome of this exercise is for students to gain an overview of what the classroom as a collective perceive Australia's national identity to be, and how this has been shaped by contributions of new members introduced into its society. Freedom, equality and discrimination were key elements mentioned in Part 1. The following activities will be used to enhance student understanding of these terms, giving students an insight of how it may feel to be part of either a dominant or minority group. As a means of showing empathy and creating tolerance and acceptance of others, students will be asked to share how they would feel if they were denied their basic rights to freedom based on some of the following scenarios. Australia was at war and had to migrate to another country for safety reasons. They were taken away from their family. They were not able to play outside because it was unsafe. They were not allowed to speak their native language, or were asked to change the way they dress. This exercise will create an opportunity for the students to reflect on their own social environment's privileges in a global context and develop an understanding of reasons why migration may have been essential for the well-being of some minority groups. The aim of this activity is for students to recognise the importance of inclusion in a group. Students will be divided into groups of say 8 to 10. Students will be asked to form a tight circle and have an individual student attempt to break the bond and reach the centre. Have the students from the dominant group repeat discriminatory comments such as "you are not welcome" or "worthy, you are different." Following this activity, a class discussion will be led on different ways individuals may react due to alienation from a dominant group and the possible effects of discrimination of difference. Some of the possible effects that may be included in the discussion: the outsider may experience feelings of frustration and anger, resulting in violence against the dominant group. They may choose to isolate themselves and lead a solitary existence, which may in turn lead to symptoms such as depression and anxiety, or they may even choose to form a group of their own, creating their own collective. This concludes my presentation, and I thank you very much for watching.